Feeling alone, overwhelmed? Low-key listening is here to help. Whether you want to vent, share your thoughts, or just have someone truly listen to you, we have real people standing by, ready to listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can download the app for free on Apple App Store or Google Play. Simply set up an account, find someone, and they will listen to what you have to say. You can actually even take voice memo notes and send them to the person. You can even text the person. Here's the best part. It is completely anonymous, not only for you, but the person listening. Because after all, don't we want somebody there willing to listen to us? Download the Low Key app today. Talk, be heard, and feel better. Low Key listening on your favorite app store.
They say opportunity knocks, but what if it's not opportunity? What if it's something or someone else? A familiar voice from the past, a chance you've been waiting for, a mistake you thought you left behind, or maybe something far bigger than you imagined. Some doors were open without hesitation, others will cautiously peek through, and some we wish had never answered. This season on Other People's Shoes, host Neil Matthews is asking one question. Who's there? Will you answer? Will you hesitate? Step inside season 22 of Other People's Shoes, where every knock holds a story, and every door leads to a choice. Now here's your host, Neil Matthews.
Ah, yes, welcome in, one and all. It's Other People's Shoes, winding down this Who's There series. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put somebody better in charge next season for our song that plays behind. They call that the music bed track, perhaps. Still scares me every time I hear it. Just freaks me out. So thinking of things today, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whichever you want to be in, whichever mood you want to be in, when you're hearing this, I was thinking today on the way into the studio of things that make me feel uncomfortable. All right, so I want you as a listener right now, jump into my size 11 Crocs. Yes, I'm wearing Crocs in the studio today. Jump into those for a moment, would you please? Think about the thing that makes you feel the most uncomfortable. I'll give you one example. There's many for me, but one in particular that seems to be still top of mind. A couple of years ago now, I have been a public address announcer for a local high school. And one of the things that is part of the job description, as you might imagine, is I have to read things, which fine. Okay, that's all right. The challenge though, I also am responsible for announcing children's names. That seems fine for some of you. They're like, okay, you got John Smith. The problem is nowadays, nobody is naming their kids with normal names. They're naming them weird names. Like Adia. That's a weird name. I could read that one because that's my daughter's. They're also naming their kids like Jax, which is like Jaxon, which would be like Jackson. What happened to the S? Did we run out of letters? We're cramming letters together, which let me tell you, I was not a hooked on phonics kid, and if I had been, I probably would have failed miserably. There's also another subject that really makes me feel uncomfortable, and it invokes an old, I think it was an 80s maybe, late 80s, early 90s song. Yeah, they were a group called Color Me Bad. Anybody? Show of hands, Color Me Bad. Remember them? Boys to Men era. Well, they had this song that came out, and it was, I Want to Sex You Up. And I don't know, maybe it's the word sex that still makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. And maybe uncomfortability is perhaps at our front door today. Well, help me welcome in my new friend. And I'm just going to let you say your name because, again, as I said, I don't want to mess it up. And it's so gorgeous.
Thank you, Neil. I'm so happy to be here. I am Janae Paylette, and I am super happy to be here to make everybody feel uncomfortable.
Janae Paylette. Everyone now at home is going to say it and practice it. Janae Paylette. Well, Janae, help us with this as we get going and rolling. Now, I know you're in the greatest state that is possibly in the union, and that, of course, being the great state of North Carolina.
That's right. Asheville. Love it here.
North Carolina now, just from a non-North Carolinian standpoint, if you went to like another state, let's say, let's call it Oregon just for fun, and you're driving down the road and you're bebopping along to your 90s hip hop or whatever you were jamming to, and you look over and you're like, wow, that's cool. They have an American flag. That's fun. And then you look down and you see a North Carolina flag and you're like, wait, am I at home Or am I in a different state? Like what's going on with that picture? That doesn't look right. Would that weird you out? Again, asking for a friend, not me. My friend Zach wants to know.
I don't think I know what the North Carolina flag even looks like. So I don't know that I would know the difference.
That's terrible. That's terrible. You should at least know what your state you live in's flag looks like.
Yeah,
Come on.
I don't know. That's not, I've never ever looked at any state flags still. I'm pretty good with other countries sometimes, but the states, yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time focusing on that. It's something I can add to my repertoire for sure.
Well, let's talk about something maybe that's comfortable before we get to the uncomfortable.
Okay.
What style of shoe might we find you walking the streets of Asheville, North Carolina in these days?
Oh, well, I'm wearing them right now. I got these a year or two ago. They're my Birkenstock slides, and I have a really tiny foot. They have like fur on the inside. So they're just super cozy, incredibly comfortable. That's the one thing I look forward to in fall and winter is being able to put my Birkenstock slides on.
Well, I tell you what, we all have our comfy shoe. I think we all need one. And my wife actually said to me recently, she said, you know, honey, I think I need to get these pair of On shoes. O-N. On. And I said, why is that? And she said, I just need a comfortable pair of shoes. I said, well, I tell everyone every week they need two things. They need good shoes and they need a good bed. Have you not been listening to the show? Have you not? She's like, I heard you. I heard you every week. I hear you. I hear you and I see you. Is that what you want to hear? Let's talk about this idea of a front door. When you came to us, I thought, oh, this is a conversation I think would make people feel uncomfortable, even myself. So, I mean, it's easy to say uncomfortabilities at our front door. Specifically, when you think about what came to mind for you when you thought about who's at your front door?
I had two things in mind. I think, who I would love to be at my front door would be my children and my grandchildren. Like that would be amazing if they actually showed up in Asheville instead of me having to go fly all over to see them. And it would make me incredibly happy because family is very, very important to me. I think that's one thing. And then the second thing I think I told you was that what did surprise me, who was at my front door 2 years ago. So I'm in the mountains in Asheville, North Carolina, and we had somebody knock at our door. And it turned out that it was somebody who was studying black bear activity in the area, who informed us that there was a den underneath our front door. I lived with Mama Bear. Eventually, she had 3 babies, 3 cubs, for the entire winter from December to April, where she was literally underneath our front door. And that was an incredible, beautiful experience of connecting with a mother and then seeing her tend her children, and how we have like videos of her teaching these little tiny cubs how to climb trees. And it was an amazing spiritual experience for me. So that's what I think about.
It really takes the mama bear mentality to a whole new level. Well, just curious, where was the scientist from?
So this was out of, I think, University of North Carolina in Asheville.
Okay.
And they were doing a black bear study, and they'd been tracking bears, and they had put little chips in them. They were able to see where the bear was, which was on our property underneath our front door. Eventually they came and they chipped all the babies, and we got to hold them, which was amazing also. I mean, it was a really incredible experience. And let me tell you something. When I first moved to Asheville, I'm a city girl. I've been in San Francisco. I've been in New York City. That's where I've lived. When I first moved to Asheville and there were black bears literally 2 feet away from my window, I ended up putting up an electric fence around the property so that they wouldn't come in, which is what they recommended. But I have a completely different appreciation and for how beautiful these creatures are. And really, they're just like squirrels. They really are. They're not dangerous. They're very friendly. They just want food in the trash can.
We have quite a few critters in our area, black bears included. Told always, stay away from them and don't feed them.
Exactly.
Well, help us with this specifically, and maybe this is where the uncomfortability comes in. Let's talk about your work and why specifically, in my case, at my front door or in my studio today, and why your work you find so much rich and fulfillment. In a sense, it helps you come alive in a lot of respects.
I am a sex and intimacy educator and coach. I'm also a former healthcare lawyer. So I went through my own journey of leaving the corporate world of healthcare and law and transitioning into becoming a sex and intimacy coach. I lived in a sexless marriage for 26 years, and that was a very challenging time of my life. When I left the marriage 15 years ago, I needed to look at my own stuff and do a lot of my own healing around my issues, because they were primarily my issues. And that took me through this very expansive journey, exploring my own sexuality, exploring my own blocks to sexuality, exploring some of my own trauma that I had never really presenced before or explored. And it was such a powerful change inside of me. I was changing so much as a person. I was softening. I was a hard-ass lawyer. New York City person. I saw this softening of me, this other side of me coming out, this ability for me to really start to connect with my body, because I'd been so out of my body, so disembodied for so many decades. I became so much more sensitive to just the world around me, to noise, to sound, to light, to taste. Incredibly powerful. It also changed my life. I left this established world I had created in New York City. My kids were already in college at that time, and just moved literally across the country. And I didn't know anybody, to California, to San Francisco, to start my life over again. Started that 15 years ago. Now I am incredibly committed to working with individuals, but right now primarily couples, who are struggling so much with their sexuality, who are in sexless marriages, who are really having very significant relationship challenges.
It's interesting to me when you say a sexless marriage. There's a lot of curiosity that kind of starts for me. I know this only based on my friend group. I know this based on even people I've talked to through the show. So that's kind of my worldview. And in that, I've heard ladies come on through the years of doing this show now. 7 years, by the way, which feels like a really long time.
Amazing.
We've had ladies come on who have walked through the trauma of sexual abuse by a relative, or maybe even their own father, maybe even a clergy person. I'm just kind of rolling through some of the past episodes in a whirlwind, so I might be forgetting some. So if I'm forgetting you, that's not on purpose. I believe as a male, women specifically seem to be more of a sex object than men do. And again, I grew up in the 80s, early 90s, Baywatch, caught a couple episodes. Those ladies were sexualized.
Totally.
You look at magazine covers nowadays, women are sexualized. You go to any Facebook post, which I know we're not supposed to, but we do. We go to that Facebook post when there's been an award show or any kind of celebrity sighting, and people are just ripping said society person apart. If I'm going any further, Kim Kardashian has been a big punching bag in a lot of respects, because people look at her and they're like, oh, well, let's tear her apart. And we tear people apart sexually, I feel like. We're like, oh, they're flawed, or they're this, or they're that. And it's like, I don't know who would want to be a woman. You're torn down. You're not built up. And being a person of faith, I try to remember, and even with my own daughter and even my wife, is that they're both the king's daughters. And I try to treat them as such. I try to treat my wife that she's the king's daughter. Call her my queen. She's a princess in a lot of respects. Again, that's my faith coming in. Again, just trying to give you my worldview.
Yeah.
The curiosity part for me is when you say you're in a sexless marriage for, I think you said 15 years, if I heard that right.
I said 26 years.
Well, even worse, 26 years. I'm trying to just fathom that. As a guy, and again, this is maybe where I get uncomfortable, which I'm okay with. As a guy, I like having sex with my wife. Should probably punch me for saying that. Again, grew up in the church. I had a skewed view of what sex was. A little malformation in some respects. I remember doing a public baby dedication when my daughter came along. It was the first act I did as a pastor. I remember feeling uncomfortable the whole time. And here's why. Because I was telling everyone publicly that my wife and I had had sex, and the result of us having sex was this daughter.
Interesting.
And people are like, so what? You're married. What does it matter? You have to understand, growing up for me, sex was never shared that it was supposed to be exciting and enjoyable and something you do with the one that you love and the one that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. But in my view, sex is designed for one person and only one person. Your response to all of what I just gave you, I just dumped all my toys out and said, pick them up.
Well, there's so much there. I'm not even sure where to start with. I think that everybody goes into a marriage, a long-term relationship. It's fair to say that everybody has this belief that this is the person that I cherish and that I love and that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and I want to treat them well. We want to have a great sex life. I think everybody's intention. I think that's fair to say. Then there's the reality, and there's a lot of different potential realities that people have around this. One reality, these couples don't communicate well with each other. In the beginning of a new sexual relationship, there's a lot of what we call new relationship energy. Essentially, the hormones are just surging and you just want to have sex with your partner over and over and over again. And you think everything is wonderful and perfect, but it's not. After 6 to 18 months, those hormones are no longer there. And then you're in a place of, well, what do we do now? I'm not as excited. I'm not as interested. I'm getting bored. We're doing the same thing over and over again. Most people, most couples don't know how to talk about it because of everything that you just said, the shame that they experienced around sex, about not being taught that sex is for pleasure, especially women. There's a lot of women feel a lot of obligation around sex in their relationships. It's not for their pleasure, it's for their partner's pleasure. We have this blueprint, this belief we have around sex that we bring into the relationship, and that starts showing its head after the new relationship energy has dissipated. And now we're sitting here going like, oh God, what do we do now? And I've got all this shame and I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't feel this desire anymore. My partner's starting to bore me, or I've really never loved the way they've touched me, but now I'm afraid to tell them that. I'm concerned that it might break the relationship. So there's a lot of pieces around the communication that we're dealing with. Another piece of this, and I think this is really important to understand, and the little I know about you and the interactions we have, I feel like this is not you for most couples, but especially for women. In order to feel really sexually connected to their partner, they also need to feel emotionally connected to their partner. Vast majority of couples really struggle with this emotional connection. They don't have the skills. They don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to create emotional safety with each other. They don't know how to repair a conflict when they get into a fight. I call them little scratches that start at the very, very beginning of the relationship. We don't have the skills to learn how to repair and to communicate. They end up turning into really deep wounds. And that is a huge part of the reason why couples end up in sexless marriages and sexless relationships. Often a sexless relationship, which by the way, let me define that for the audience. We define a sexless relationship as a couple having sex less than 10 times a year. That's the official definition of a sexless relationship. You only have sex on your anniversaries and your birthdays. Officially, you're in a sexless relationship. You may have some sex. It's not continuous. Unless, somebody has a disability or there's a reason that it is the way it is. That's how we define a sexless relationship. The couples that I work with, Neil, they tend to not have had sex for 3 years, 5 years. It's not uncommon at all that there are so many people in sexless relationships. Going back to the emotional piece, that's a huge piece of what is going on. Typically, not having sex is just a symptom of deeper relationship issues around emotional intimacy and emotional connection.
My turn first to process everything I said. My turn now to process what you said. Ah, wow. I love that you define that, by the way, because I was sitting here thinking, okay, what is the definition? Abstinence in a sense? No sex? Glad you clarified that for us tremendously. Spaces that you're in and helping couples How often, statistically speaking, I'm not asking for like data on couples. How often are you seeing couples introducing pornography into their sex life?
I don't have a statistic on that. I think it varies from couple to couple. I'm a very sex positive person. I think I have to be able to honor all of the different types of sexual activities that people are interested in or not interested in. Is pornography sometimes a problem? Yes. Pornography is a problem in younger generations, especially it disconnects people from the reality of what sex is actually like. So I see that in the younger generation. My client base typically are 40s to 60s. So they're a little bit of an older generation where porn wasn't quite as prevalent. They grew up with a different belief system, I think, around relationships. I have occasionally in my practice that will be an issue where there's some porn addiction or overuse of porn. I have issues with addiction. My own philosophy and belief around addiction is the reason people get addicted to things is because they're lacking human connection, which is what they're really looking for. The same thing with porn. I'm watching porn all the time because I don't feel connected with my partner and I can't actually experience them. I think it's an issue. I don't think it's as big an issue as people like to think it is in terms of breaking up marriages and couples stop having sex. I think, again, it's just a symptom, not feeling connected and emotionally distant and not safe to be able to ask for what you want or to explore what you want with a partner. That's my take on it.
Just was curious, especially nowadays, again, with it being easily accessible. We have it in our hand through our phones and things of that nature. If people are introducing that, provide maybe a spark.
Some couples do. Some couples like get turned on porn, like that's a turn on for them. I'm like, great, use it. Use anything that's a turn on for you. Like nothing's off the table. So if that works for you, a lot of men, they like to masturbate to porn. I'm like, great, masturbate to porn. My partner does it. No big deal. Get to have your pleasure. I don't have to necessarily participate in it as long as we're not feeling like it's negatively impacting the relationship.
My question is, I would feel if I found out my wife was watching porn, especially as a guy, like what is wrong with me? And I would think vice versa. If she knew that I was doing that, is the insecurities there? I think it's a slippery slope when you start doing things like that. Takes away the specialness of it, the sacredness of it, the importantness of it.
I guess I would say the way I look at it is you can bifurcate it. We can have really connected sex with our partner, which is amazing. My partner over here, super highly sexual. I don't want to have sex every day. I don't even know if my body can handle having sex every day. If he wants to masturbate to his heart's content because he needs that, it feels good for him. It's just a release. That's fine. That's my own perspective. But the difference between disclosing it and having a conversation about it and having an understanding of this is just what I need in order to be able to get through my very, very stressful hospital schedule or whatever it is, versus I'm doing it, I'm hiding it, the shame I have associated with it. This all comes down to the way to improve your sex life, which is really what I'm so passionate about, is helping people improve their sex life. It starts with communication, being able to open up about what's going on for you and feeling like there's enough safety in that relationship to be able to express things that might be hurtful to your partner. How we deal with each other's pain and hurt really is the distinction between whether or not you're going to have a successful relationship or whether there's going to be a lot of friction in that relationship as well.
That's an interesting take for sure. Sex was designed for whom?
If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, sex is really at the very base, at the very bottom. Sex, we need sex for procreation, clearly. We also need sex for connection. I think that everybody, I want to say there are people that are asexual, but generally most of the population needs sex to feel connected with their partner or with themselves, to have that sense, my body can do this, my body can have pleasure. I think it is part of Mother Nature's way of creating pleasure. I will say that human females are the only mammalian species in the world that have clitorises. No other mammalian species has a clitoris. Clitoris is there simply to experience pleasure. It ends up moving us towards procreation sometimes. It is really there to experience pleasure. And I believe pleasure is our birthright. It's everybody's birthright to feel pleasure. It changes your whole neurochemical system when you experience pleasure in your body.
Who do you think created sex in your mind?
The very first species where there was an X and Y sort of chromosome. I don't know. Who do you think created sex?
That's a great question. That to me is what's so special about sex.
How do you define sex? Who created the procreative sex? Well, that is, I don't know, some species, some whatever the origins of whatever story, whatever creation story you want to believe in order to populate the world, there had to be progeny. We had to create that. That's just to create a new potential person. Sex, it's not just defined as penis and vagina. This whole way in which you can experience a sexual interaction with your partner that has nothing to do with procreation. That's where I say the connection, the pleasure is all a part and parcel of what sex actually is.
So sex is like an egg. There's different elements to it.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's one of the places where we really go off. It's a huge issue that shows up in my office over and over again. When I ask a couple, how do you define sex? What does it look like for you to have sex? It's usually like we do a little kissing, maybe there's a little bit of oral, and then we have intercourse. And that maybe takes 10 or 20 minutes if they're lucky. The average couple is probably like 7 minutes. And that's just not enough time. It's certainly not enough time for a woman to actually get to the point where they're actually highly aroused. Like our bodies are so different than the male bodies. Our arousal system is so different than the male arousal system. And that's a huge pain point with couples. A lot of education needs to happen in that area.
Where does that education start?
Well, the education should start in school, is where I believe it should start. We know that so many schools, even when I had sex ed, when they used to give it, it was just all about puberty at best. Yes, they talked about female anatomy and male anatomy and a little bit of how a baby was made. Ideally, that's where it should happen. And if it doesn't happen in school, then it's really the parents' obligation to have that conversation with their children. The whole reason that you said you feel uncomfortable talking about this, so I think you're doing a really good job, that word shame and the way in which everything that you said, women are so sexualized in society and it's such a sexually idolized society. And yet there's so much sex negativity as well. And there's a lot of shame around sexuality, which comes from all of the conditioning that we receive from society, from religion, from culture, from our parents, the way our parents modeled or didn't model sex and intimacy. That's where we pick all of this up. I think that's one of the reasons why we don't talk to our kids about this and have a hard time with this overlying layer of shame around sexuality at the very basest level.
This is so incredibly awesome to have this uncomfortable conversation. I grew up in the church and remember from a young age, very young age, being told that premarital sex was a sin.
Right.
God designed sex. That's why I asked you who created sex. My belief structure, that's the designer. I mean, he's the guy that did it all.
Okay.
I know for some, that's not how it goes, Neil. I'm like, well, that's what I was told, so that's what I believe in. Believe that to be true. Sex is, again, designed to be experienced in all the levels that I can think of, and maybe there's more that I'm not even aware of, between a man and a woman and a husband and a wife. And anything outside of that, I think violates, and I chose that word on purpose, violates the design, defiles the design. And I know, again, for some, you're like, Neil, sex can be between a man and a man. I'm like, nope, not in my mind.
In your mind. And you're entitled to have your opinion. We can disagree on that.
That's maybe where we're different, and it's okay. Some would say, well, what about a woman and a woman? I would say, no, it's not designed for that. Sex was designed, again, in my mind, for a man and a woman after they are married.
Yeah.
You're saying that there's a different way.
Not everybody wants to get married, especially now. You know, look at the younger generation and all of the different types of experiences that they're having, situationships. And I just read an article the other day. There were like relationship paradigms I'd never even heard of before. I think there's a lot of choice in how people want to go around exploring and experiencing their sexuality. And there's a lot of gender fluidness that's going on as well, for sure, in the younger generations. And the acceptance of that is, I think, because things have shifted some, There's just different ways to be able to experience sexuality. A lot of faith-based clients who I work with, I'm in the South, for example. I honor everybody's beliefs. Whatever your belief is, that's great. We can work with that. In my own belief system, there's a lot of different ways to be able to connect because human bodies are beautiful. Bodies are beautiful. Touching bodies is delicious. To me, a body is a body, whether it's a male body or a female body. And having that human connection, I think pleasure is our birthright. And I don't believe that pleasure only happens in a male-female model or that it only happens in a committed long-term relationship. It's just not realistic for a lot of people. If you're in a miserable situation, you need to get out of that relationship. You can't be in an abusive relationship. You can't be in a place where your children are hearing screaming and yelling all the time, and you've got to try something else. I have less rules. I live by a less rule-based in my world and in my life. I respect people who live by the rules that work for them in their world and in their relationship. But it's not my worldview.
Where did that worldview come from, do you feel like?
I think that worldview came from when I went through my own sexual journey, began an experience of I've been so shut down and so disconnected from my body. And I was being the good girl and marrying the person I thought I was supposed to marry, having the children I love, but I was doing the thing I was supposed to do in order to be the good girl. And it was tearing me apart and creating a lot of anxiety for me. Could no longer be that good girl. And I disappointed in-laws and I disappointed parents. Yeah, I have to do what I have to do. And it's not nihilistic or narcissistic. It was survival at that point for both of us because we couldn't sustain that any longer. Began a journey of really exploring sex. And I really began to understand a lot more around the human body and around pleasure and around sexuality and have a spiritual experience around it as well. I've had a lot of partners in my life. I have a partner now, long-term partner. I've always wanted to be in a partnership, but that wasn't the best way to explore sexuality, quite frankly. I needed to actually have a lot of different experiences to really understand what worked for me, what didn't work for me. That's my personal journey. Not everybody's cup of tea, not how everybody goes about it. In my work with couples, when a couple comes to me, we're going to explore sexuality within the context of your relationship, however you define that paradigm. For many of them, they're monogamous in long-term relationships. Some of them have more openness in their relationship. Whatever that relationship is, that's how we're going to explore sexuality. And I think that's important to be able to honor that, just like I honored the choices that you make in your faith. It's important to be able to honor that in other people as well. We all wear different shoes all the time.
I really do love that phrase.
I know, it works.
You were talking about monogamy. I guess that's where I'm stuck. I really think monogamy is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
What sounded like you were describing that's not necessarily accurate in your mind. There is another way. Like if we talk about going to the grocery store, especially in my little community, there's several ways to get to Walmart. You can go down this road or this road or this road or whatever.
I've had a lot of experiences in my life. I've been in non-monogamous relationships. I think there are certain people that are not wired for monogamy. They're just not wired for it at a very basic neurological level. They're not. And there are a lot of couples who they get turned on by exploring non-monogamy as well. That's part of the way in which they open up their relationship and they find some value from it. I think, again, it's a very, very personal choice that people make. And I'm all about personal choices. I have no value on what's good for you, what's not good for you. I'm very open. And I think as a sex coach, I think that's important that I can hold everything. I don't have a particular point of view. My only point of view is around helping couples really be in connection with each other to heal the challenges that they're having and to work with them within a framework that seems to be working with them. There's a lot of infidelity in this country, a lot. It's a very, very high percentage. I think there's a couple of ways to heal wounds in relationships. You talk about it or you work with somebody on it. Another is you go and have an affair. A lot of options that people take. Third way is you look at your relationship and you say maybe maybe this isn't working for us. We love each other. We want to stay together, but maybe we want to open up our relationship. Maybe we want to try something different so that we can stay together. So I just think there's lots of different options are open to people if they're open to it. I have no agenda ever. A couple comes into my office, comes to my retreats. I find out about them. What are your belief systems, etc. And always just work to try to create the connection they're looking for, that they're missing, and get them into a better place. And, I work with a lot of infidelity, a lot. It's very, very common when people come to me. Just wrote a blog post this week about infidelity. And my point is, and it always has been, that if you look at infidelity, generally speaking, in a relationship, what you end up seeing underneath it, there were reasons, not that this is ever an excuse, because infidelity and betrayal, that's a very, very, very deep wound. There were reasons underneath that led up to the infidelity, and they always had to do with one or both partners feeling alone, feeling not emotionally safe with their partner, feeling disconnected, and not being able to talk about it or express it. In my view, infidelity is an opportunity to actually create a new relationship based in authenticity and truth and vulnerability. That's Janae's worldview. And that's what I teach. And that's what I write about in my book that just came out, which I'm going to tell you is called the Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit: How to Enhance Communication and Create a Lifetime of Passionate Intimacy. So there's a lot of areas and ways in which relationships go south, not because of anybody's fault, because of life circumstances, because of the childhood wounds that we bring into that relationship, because we don't have the skills. And so my book is very skill-based as well, to be able to learn how to deal with some of our stuff and how to repair and have conversations. That's my important point in terms of what I'm passionate about, and what I think sex is very complicated, has a lot of different layers to it. Get to take whatever journey that you want to take. That's the Janae belief, which I know is different than the Neil belief, and that's fine.
It's absolutely different. I go back to probably one of the most haunting things that was said to me at the start of the show for me. I told my brother-in-law I was starting a podcast, and he's like, cool, what's the name of it? And I say, well, it's going to be called Other People's Shoes. The whole premise is to ask people what shoes they're in, kind of get a little kind of icebreaker, but also for the audience to kind of visually think of like, okay, I'm in these shoes. Mm-hmm. He said, well, you have to do me a favor. If you're going to do this and you're going to do it with justice. And I said, okay, I'm ready. Pin poised, like ready to go. And he said, you cannot have people come on that believe what you believe. He said, if you're truly going to walk in someone else's shoes, you have to have people on that you don't necessarily agree with, that even think the same as you.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, okay. And I would say great majority of guests come on, and I agree with them mostly. There have been some that have come on that I'm like, no, not at all. Yeah. Not even close. We're not even in the same hemisphere, stratosphere, solar system, maybe. I'm not saying that's of you. I'm just saying in general. I promise.
I was wondering, are we in?
I know.
I think there's an intersection. We have our planets are intersecting.
I hear some of what you're saying. And again, maybe I'm misunderstanding, and I'm okay with that. I feel like sex to me almost feels like kickball. And that there are some people out there right now that have been absolutely the last kid picked. And that feeling of rejection. Mm-hmm. That feeling of no one wants me. That feeling of I'm never going to be on the team. Everyone else gets cool jerseys. Where's mine? Oh, we ran out. Sorry, you get this gunny sack.
But that happens in marriages all the time.
The thing that you talked about was infidelity. And when I hear that word infidelity, it makes my skin crawl, because it makes me feel like when there's infidelity, somebody has told their, I'll say partner, so I'm a little more universal. Mm-hmm. I would say wife or husband. We'll make it universal. Their partner, that you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You're the last picked. I wanted somebody else. I wanted somebody different. You suck, in a sense.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's why I like monogamy. I feel like monogamy, there's still a chance to say, listen, I might have treated you like the last kid picked, but I want to fix that.
But that happens in monogamy all the time. That's the problem in monogamy.
But that's what I can't figure out. That's the math problem, and I'm not a math guy, right? Hate math. I hate numbers.
Relationships that infidelity happens.
That's what I'm trying to say is I feel like I need to fix that. I need to go on the hero's quest to fix that. Listen, I never want my wife ever to come to me and say, listen, I don't feel loved. I don't feel seen. I don't feel like you love me enough. Again, because I think sex, and again, this is where it may be different, is I think sex is supposed to be special and sacred and beautiful.
I totally agree with that. But let me be very clear. Like, a lot of affairs are emotional affairs. They're not, and they may have a sexual component to it. But the ones that are really painful and hurtful, because I just dealt with one a little while ago, are the ones where there's actually a very deep emotional connection with another person that may move into the sexual room, doesn't always. And those are probably harder to heal. Those are harder to heal than I was drunk and at a convention. I don't think they do this as much anymore. There was this hot chick at the bar or whatever, and I ended up hooking up with her. Like, that's a little bit easier to heal. Still hard to heal. A lot of these relationships are emotional, and I think that's the point that you're missing, because they're lacking the emotional connection in the monogamous relationship, in the primary relationship, in the marriage, that somebody goes outside because they're not feeling loved and they're not feeling desired and they don't feel safe talking to their partner about the things that are bugging them. And I think that's what I see more often than not. Does that make sense?
That helps.
Yeah.
It's a slow fade in some respects.
It's 100% a slow fade. Like,
okay.
Honestly, I'm shocked in my own marriage that my husband never had an affair with anyone. Like, it shocks me. And I even asked him that, like, you really never had sex with anybody else? And he said, yes. I mean, I had a tiny little bit of nothing ever happened, but in a little emotional affair with somebody, right? Because I felt so lonely and so distant and I had nobody to talk to. And that's how these things start, which is why I'm saying that there are reasons leading up to it. And they tend to be around the emotional disconnection, because the emotional disconnection or the emotional connection forms the foundation of a really solid relationship and a solid and loving sex life.
I just think sex is supposed to be special.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. I don't think
it does seem a little weird. The women get the clitoris and it's only designed for pleasure. Like, what do the guys get? I feel like we're left out. Speaking of kickball, feel a little left out here.
Yeah, you never have any pleasure. It's not hard at all to get there.
But ping. I feel like you just made a joke there. Well, help us with this. How can folks get in touch with you if they want to know more of your work? Is there a social media of choice that you love to hang out on? Is there like a ecosystem that maybe we should know about and be a part of and go join in on? I'm saying ecosystem because it's easier, because it seems like everyone nowadays have this platform that they're building and this community that they're building around. So all things ecosystem for you.
Well, I would say the best way to get in touch with me is go to this website, howtoimprovemylovelife.com, where you can both connect with me, and then also you'll find I have a lovely 20 minutes to better sex little video series that are 7 3-minute videos with very specific tips that you can use to improve your love life right away. And then you can also connect with me, reach out, and through that website, you'll be able to set up a call with me if you want to chat more, find out about my retreats. My social media handle is at Janae. I'm mostly on Instagram, Janae, XANET, POP is what it is. But howtoimprovemylovelife.com is really an awesome series of videos that will help you no matter what stage of relationship you're in.
So, Janae, help us with this. What is one thing, maybe one thing, a couple right now who's listening, maybe it be, whether it be a husband, a wife, husband, whatever, or, whatever genre they want to put themselves in, that they're listening right now, what's one way that they could really improve their sex life?
Like offer and talk about is this concept of how you touch your partner. Generally, we touch our partner in a way in which we think they want to be touched. We usually have our eyes open. We're looking for their reaction. Am I touching her in a way that feels good? Freezing up? Is she making a sound? And we're really focused. Our energy is really focused external. And our partner knows that. They feel that way. And that made the touch not be very conscious and not be very present. What I always focus on with my clients is learning how to touch for your own pleasure. And touching for your own pleasure means that you're actually focusing on your own sensation when you're touching your partner. So if you're using your hand and you're touching their arm and shoulder, you're really focusing on like, oh, how can I use their arm to make my hand feel good? So that brings you more into your body, so that you're actually more present with your touch. Your partner feels it, because if it feels better for you and you're feeling your pleasure, they feel their own pleasure, creates this pleasure circuit. And they get a little more turned on, goes back to you, and it creates this circuit of pleasure. And that is not something that people think about or do, but it really does change the way you touch. It's sometimes, for women who feel like they have to perform, really focusing on like, oh, how do I do this in a way where I am making my body feel good, however I'm pleasuring my partner. It really does make it more enjoyable for you, and it's more pleasure-based. I think a really important tip that's also in my howtoimprovemysexlife.com. That's one of my important tip videos, because that will completely change the paradigm of how you interact with your partner.
Well, I want to say this with all sincerity. I am excited that you are here. I am excited for what you shared. I might not love everything you shared. I might not agree with everything you shared, but as I said already, that's not what it's about. So
Right.
I just want to say thank you so much again, Janae, for coming on and just sharing what you shared with us today and giving us some moments. Let's be honest, you've done any other number of things and you gave us some moments, and to me that's important as well.
Well, thank you for being an amazing host. Thanks for holding the space for me. I really love, that's one thing I really love about your show, is that you do sometimes bring on guests that are not aligned with your views, and I think that's part of the problem in this country, is that there's not enough of this discourse, right? That we need to be able to talk to each other and respect each other's opinions. So,
all right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, you can unplug your kids' ears now. There will be a listener discretion advised. If you missed it, it will be at the beginning of this episode. Listen, I wonder about this all the time. As I said in the episode, and I stand behind what I said, it's almost like a brake job. I'm standing in front of the brake job. I'm that confident that the brakes will work. There are 3 things, maybe 4, because I don't like the number 3. It's weird. It has a weird connotation to me. I know some people are like, it's just a number, but it's not. It's weird for me. So 4 things that I really don't understand. Here they are in a very succinct order and probably ranked 1 to 4. Here they are. You ready? God. Still don't understand that guy, that deity, that whatever you want to put in there. I would say God. Number 2, my wife. True. I don't understand her. I try my very best every day to understand her more and to know her on a deeper level every day. Number 3, women in general. Just, don't understand them. And number 4 is love. I don't understand it. I don't understand how some people can love and some people don't love. I don't understand how some people can say, I will never love that person because of, and then there's a blank. Fill that in. And so maybe that's you today. Maybe you're the one sitting again on that kickball line, waiting and hoping that somebody will come along and truly love you and truly see you and truly understand you. Well, I want to tell you that you are worth it. If you don't get anything maybe out of today, maybe get this. I think Janae would echo this, is that you are worth it. You are worthy of love. and you are worthy to be heard. And so maybe that's our goal this week, is to say to someone that they are worthy and they are worth it. Let me know how that goes for you. You can let me know, of course, on the socials at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. We're at OPS Podcast Show, as I already said. We're also at opspodcast.com. It's a little different, but it's still home base for us. Past, future, and present episodes are there currently. And of course, don't forget this when we go. It's so important. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. I want to thank you for listening. And guess what? Stay tuned till next week when we again walk in other people's shoes.